Hello, everyone, and welcome back to My First Mon. I'm one of your hosts, Jack Martin, alongside the Pokemon Master, Christian Buckley.
Hello, Jack. How are you doing on this Pokemon Day? It's a Monday, right?
It is a Monday by the time we're recording.
Yes.
It's Pokemon Monday. Christian, I know it's a little boring to talk about the weather, but I feel like it's getting. Of course, we live in the Northeast region of the United States. It's getting to that point. You're checking the weather app. You seeing 60 on there? We're getting there. I feel like we're getting there.
Yes. I turned the attic into a studio. I've talked about this before on different shows, but we retain heat in this room. I have the window cracked right now. It feels good. I'm excited.
I feel like Pokemon is such a summer game.
Jack, I'm glad you say
especially
that.
Especially with Pokemon Go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that just came out in the summer back in 2015, 16, I think 16 maybe, and that just got everyone walking again.
Yeah.
Because of Pokemon. So yeah, but like in previous iterations, is that a summer vibe?
Yeah, it's weird, Jack, because there's a certain point where Pokemon made a shift. For the longest time, I feel like I remember Pokemon games releasing in May, but it's like September, November, all the time. I don't like. Hold on. When did Pokemon Soul Silver come out? I need to know this because you're absolutely right. It's all September. What the hell? Okay. But yes, Pokemon persisted through the summer months growing up. A summer day, kids in the neighborhood, we'd all come out, hang in the backyard, play some Pokemon. You had a GBA, you had a DS, you had Emerald, Ruby, Pearl, whatever you had. You were hunting Pokemon. It's a great time. Amazing energy.
It just feels right, and it's funny because video games always give me like, oh, it's so nice outside kind of vibes,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna spend most of my time inside.
Love it. AC on blast.
Oh yeah, you gotta love it. But with Pokemon, especially nowadays, going somewhat more mobile, it's nice, and it feels like we're getting to those Pokemon weather months.
Yeah.
So,
once I get a vaccine, I'll start. Let's bring Pokemon Go back. Let's just do that. Okay. Let's just everybody go outside again all the time, hang out in public places, catch Pokemon again. You know what? It's the perfect time for a rebirth.
Yeah, we'll enact a Wooper watch as well.
Ooh,
of course,
yes,
when that
yes,
comes
yes.
up. But for those that don't know, this is My First Mon. It's our Pokemon retrospective series, with this season covering Pokemon Emerald, week by week, gym by gym. You can support us over on patreon.com/joyclicks. At the $1 level, you can name the Pokemon in my party, just like Chad Gable from Derivative Zed. Thank you very much. And at the $5 level, you can get producer credit and have your name read out in each episode, just like our Patreon producers Chris Hawkes and Aaron Easton. So thank you both. And finally, you can get involved with the show for free by giving us any advice or corrections in the YouTube comments, and we will feature you in our Trainer Tips segment. Now, Christian, believe it or not, I didn't prepare the Trainer Tips segment. So I unfortunately do not have that ready for you, but I am going to pull up our previous YouTube section. So my apologies.
It's all good. I can lead with something from the Discord because every week, shout out to Neon Rider because Neon Rider always gives a very thorough thoughts, commentary, live commentary in the Discord as they listen to each week's episode. Tons of information all the time, fun little anecdotes. But one of the things that we were talking about, differences in remakes, right? In Emerald, the Magma Hideout is a new addition. In Ruby and Omega Ruby, they just use the Aqua Hideout. So Emerald introduced this new hideout experience for Team Magma. So when we were talking about maybe Shining Diamond, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl may or may not be implementing stuff from Platinum, I might have made the reference to Oras using Emerald stuff, but in that case specifically, they didn't. And there are some, like you can catch a Rayquaza in Oras, but like story-wise, it is pretty strict. I was wrong about that. There is a bonus episode after the fact that's supposed to kind of like make up for it. Like it's a story that's not really tied to any of the original stuff, and it's funny enough, Jack, it brings in that idea that every cartridge is its own universe.
Yeah, Pocket Verses, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I believe that's where that originated. And Sun and Moon follow up on that a little bit, but yeah. So potentially, Diamond and Pearl may or may not have platinum stuff in there. To me, based on that NPC thing, I will believe that there is platinum content in here because, dear God, I hope so.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I have the comments pulled up here. Maybe I'll enact some, or read out some comments here. I'll start off with Todd here, who says, I know that some people would prefer you guys to just play Platinum, but I think it'd be super interesting to see you guys play these remakes and finally be able to trade/battle with each other. That's sort of our thinking about that, and I think that'd be a nice little gimmick to sort of spruce up the show a little bit, that we can actually like play together. So yeah, we're leaning towards playing the remakes for Gen 4.
Yeah, I think it'll be easier. Plus, we're gonna probably touch on it this episode, but like, there is a certain element to, specifically for me, nostalgically, and I think what makes Gen 4 so beloved by me and my friends who love Gen 4 is that it's tied to legendaries and legendary hunting post-game, and specifically event Pokemon. Without hacking it and like planting something into our game through emulation, we wouldn't be able to experience that. Maybe they do event distribution just over the internet now instead of having to go to GameStop when like the remakes come out. Or they could just implement it into the game on the cartridge. Regardless, I do think that's an element to Pearl and Diamond that I also think we would lose from that. Because I know Emerald had some event Pokemon that we can't get unless we, drop a little thing in the emulation, but,
Right. Regal Beartech comments, longtime fan. Of course, Todd as well. Ancient Power is a 60 base power rock move with a 10% chance to boost all of your stats by 1.5. Now, when that was used against me in that particular gym, that 10% chance came true. So that's where I got like this very long, not cutscene, but like part in the battle where all of that Pokemon's stats were raised, and it took forever. So yeah, shout out to you, Regal Beartech. I didn't realize that was only a 10% chance of happening. So that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Then definitely not Pedro, who, shout out to them, always comments. So gotta appreciate that. Definitely not Pedro says, so the reason Shadow Ball was better than Bite there, and this was in reference to the previous battle where I had Absol and Mightyena against, I think it was Psychic types. That was the Psychic type gym. So the reason Shadow Ball was better than Bite is because Bite, as a Dark type move, does special damage, while Shadow Ball, a Ghost type move, does physical damage. Xatu was boosting its special defense with Calm Mind, and so Bite didn't do a lot to it. But because its physical defense wasn't boosted, Shadow Ball did a lot of damage. That's a great read.
Yes. And very beneficial to you as well, because me, being completely honest, I love the trainer tip segment because we always like learn stuff about the history or mechanics that like I may or may not have known fully, and then just getting some clarity on them. I am set in my ways as a Pokemon trainer. I like, things will fly over my head, but I'm sure that the trainer tip stuff for you about like special defense, all that kind of stuff, I already have my ways I look at them, but for you, I'm sure that helps, right?
Yeah, it definitely gives me some more insight. I don't think I'm as, or ever will be, as like into the sort of stats as a lot of Pokemon players are, because I just think that comes with years of playing the games, and I'm more so focused on just getting through the story and getting through the Elite Four, and mostly just my strategy is just using Pokemon with like using type advantages against other Pokemon rather than like, all right, let's check out the stats here, let's get in the nitty gritty. So it's not necessarily my focus, but it does help me understand the game a little bit more.
Definitely.
Yeah. Finally, shout out to Zenon Kovalechko, who commented. Unfortunately, I did not have time to parse out their message, but basically, they were saying that they've restarted watching the show and gave us their current party. So, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Zenon.
happy to
Appreciate
have you back.
Definitely.
So.
So, Christian.
Yes.
Speaking of current parties,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to hit you with that current party.
Please do.
Of course, we got Sceptile, level 40. Yertle, who's my Torkoal, level 35. Manectric at level 35. I will always have a hard time saying that Pokemon. Pelipper, level 36. Pandaking, who's my Hariyama, is at level 35. And Chad Gable, of course, who's my Graveler, also at level 35. By the end of this, pretty much every Pokemon is level 40.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
So there you go. How about you?
Most of my team is floating from like 45 to 48, I think, right now. And that is absolutely because I think week 1 or 2, I wanted to just play more of this game, so I spent some time grinding, and I got ahead of the game a little bit. Of course, I have Kashi, my Sceptile, my Swellow, Grayson, my Camerupt, Aries, my Whiscash, Jabu, my Absol, Sephiroth, who is absolutely staying with me to the end of this game at this point, and my Lanoon, who I'm sure you've run into at this point, named Freddy.
Probably. Freddy?
Yes, Freddy, because I believe when I caught Lanoon, I was watching iCarly on Netflix.
Wow.
And also, unknowingly, I think because Lanoon is basically a ferret, or is it ferret is the Pokemon, ferret is the animal. Because Lanoon's like a ferret, basically, I think in the Barnyard movie with like Kevin James Cow,
yeah,
I think there was a ferret named Freddy. I think that wasn't the purpose of the naming. It was definitely Freddie Benson, but happy coincidence.
Something that struck me about iCarly coming to Netflix was that there's only 2 seasons of that show.
No, they don't have every episode on Netflix, and they're all out of order. But
wait, are they out of order on Netflix, or was it like a Clone Wars style?
I don't know, but I know for sure the episode with One Direction is not on Netflix, thanks to my girlfriend Kayla telling me that.
If you gave me a multiple choice question, about like who appeared in iCarly during its incarnation or its run, and One Direction was in there, I don't know if I would have said One Direction. I would have said like Big Time Rush or something.
Sure, yeah.
If that was listed, because that would be brand synergy, of course. Nickelodeon,
yes, of course. So, but yeah, that's the team I'm rocking right now. Most likely for next week, Freddy will not be in there. Freddy has the HMs on him right now, but still trying to lock down a Heracross. I think I might give up at this point and just settle on something else, but that's what I got.
Yeah, doesn't Heracross have like a 3% spawn rate or something?
So I think Neon Rider said in the Safari Zone, Heracross has like a 5% spawn rate. So
yikes.
Yeah, I got lucky with Absol. I'll just take it at this point.
Yeah, Absol was pretty low too, wasn't it? 10.
Yeah, Absol was pretty low. Also, it was worth mentioning. Remember how the Pokedex was like, oh, they'll appear before disasters or whatever, which I thought was true. Good, but like the Pokedex lies all the time, Jack. We haven't really talked about Pokedex entries much, but it lies a lot.
Disinformation.
Yeah.
In the Pokedex.
Yeah, you can catch an Absol anytime, really. There is no despawning of Absol. Again, that was just a tall tale, but it's a fun one. So, because we'll see. There's disasters in this game.
I was gonna say, I feel like that was probably in reference to what we'll see later on in this episode, but apparently it's just a lie. Just a big old lie.
Yep. So.
Well, yep, there's the current parties. So essentially picking up where we left off, we were in Moss Deep City. We beat the tag team, I'm forgetting the name of, but it was the first gym where we actually fought against 2 gym leaders, which is pretty wild. Immediately, I think we see Maxie and Magma walking away on like the bottom right hand of the screen, and we journey over to the Space Center.
Yes.
Now, I think this is the second reference to space in Pokemon so far.
Because
like, I think Gen 1 had like NASA or something.
Gen 1, I think, might have made reference to the Challenger.
Yes, it did.
But yes, I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to ask you about that. You see a space center in Pokemon. What do you think? What's your first reaction here? Seeing this investment in space.
Yeah, I want to see space Pokemon. Because I think that's where my mind goes when I'm thinking space center in Pokemon. I want to see, of course, the United States and NASA just launched what was it, Perseverance to Mars. Of course, I want to see what this world's NASA is picking up out in planets yonder. You're bringing back some rocks. Of course, you're gonna bring back some type of Pokemon. I want to see what that looks like. Are there Pokemon out in the universe? Is this the only planet with Pokemon? I'm very interested.
Now,
do we ever get an answer?
Yes. But I'd have to fact check this because unfortunately, I think this may be an instance of this event Pokemon type thing back in the day where you had to go somewhere. Pre-DS, you had to go somewhere, give your cartridge to an employee, they'd put it in a machine, and then there'd be something that happens in your game when you turn it back on.
I see. I gotta be honest, I don't know, we've discussed that before. I think that is the most, 2000s thing possible.
I know.
When you go to a mall, and there's, a Pokemon representative, who's, this 16-year-old kid who just wanted a part-time job, puts your card in a machine, and it does something to it, and then he hands it back to you. That's wild.
Yeah. Thankfully, in the future, the DS implemented Wi-Fi connectivity. You could just be in the proximity of a GameStop, pull up something from the main menu of Pokemon Pearl, and then download it. And then when you log in, you'd be able to go into Pokemart, and then there's an NPC there that's like, hey, I have this thing for you, use this to get to this island, and then you can encounter some Pokemon. Which, again, hopefully they'll replicate that in some way with the remakes. But here, I did a quick Google search, and it seems like there might be a way to trigger this event that is dealing with space and space Pokemon. I will look into this before next week. And perhaps when we reconvene, we'll figure out a couple post-game things to do, if it's doable. If not, I can also look into trying to download the stuff that will allow us to do these events, because that might be a fun episode.
Okay, cool. Did you ever go to a Pokemon representative and have your card messed with?
Never my card, but I absolutely went to GameStop, Toys R Us back in the day for the DS era. That, again, Pearl, huge memories for that, but
yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, nothing with Emerald.
Okay, nice.
But when you hear space Pokemon or Pokemon in space, where does your mind wander to? What are you thinking?
Immediately, of course, we've talked about Spider-Man in the past. Now that you put the thought in my head, I'm thinking Venom. I'm thinking Symbiote.
Okay.
But of course, there's just a plethora of different options we could get from space Pokemon. Just weird looking things. Of course, most of the Pokemon are based in these games on real life animals. Lab experiments gone wrong, we might say.
Sure.
But this could lead to a plethora of possibilities for designs.
Just because you don't know, and I know you won't look it up, I would like to tell you the name.
Please.
Of this Pokemon, and I want to know. Deoxys.
You got real excited saying that one.
Yeah. Deoxys, I believe.
Deoxys.
XYX.
That sounds like... Okay. That sounds like a made-up energy company in a comic book. Like Roxxon.
Sure, yeah.
Deoxys. Okay. Can I give you the what springs into my mind?
Please do.
I think of an oil geyser spurting up with eyes.
Okay.
How wrong am I?
Incredibly.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's this thing look like?
I mean, should we save it in case you run across it, or what?
Okay.
Are you thinking?
Okay. We could save it.
Okay.
Because it's possible I do run across it.
Yes. If we can't get it to work in like an easy enough way, then we will have a discussion about it for sure.
Okay.
But,
excellent. Well, that's something to look forward to.
Yes, I'm glad space stuck out to you here because it is kind of random, right? It's like we go through this whole game talking about terrestrial expansion, and then all of a sudden we got like space station.
Yeah.
Doing, like...
It's also weird because I was talking to NPCs in Moss Deep City, and they were like, "Oh man, I wish the rest of Hoenn was more integrated with nature because there's a lot of trees around Moss Deep." And then you have like this space center there, which of course is very much the opposite of nature. It's human-made. It seems to stick out like a sore thumb, so I thought that was a little funny.
Yes. Glad it was effective.
Mm-hmm. So we walk in here, Magma is here. Someone gives me a Sunstone, which levels up Fire-type Pokemon. Can't use it yet, because I don't have any Pokemon at the ready. But I imagine this is similar to like the Thunderstone, or like the Leaf Stone.
Kind of. I don't think that the Sunstone is used for evolution.
Oh, I see.
I think the Sunstone is just to bolster attacks that would use sun-relevant things, perhaps. But,
gotcha.
Actually, my mistake. There is one Pokemon that can use a Sunstone to evolve, and it is a Gloom, I think. Gloom will evolve into Blossom instead.
Okay. So I imagine if I had Sunny Day on my Yurtle, this might be able to be held, for example.
Potentially. I have a... Oh, no, I was wrong. It can evolve certain Pokemon. And it's a handful of them. But I think you might also get a stat buff as well. But it's... Let's see. The Pokemon it can evolve is Gloom, Sunkern, Cottony, and a couple ones that we haven't been Cottony yet. But Gloom and Sunkern could evolve through a Sunstone.
Interesting. So, yep, we get that. Get to the end of this, of course, fight a bunch of Magma people. Magma's here for rocket fuel, we find out. They want to jettison the entire load into Mount Chimney to make the volcano erupt. Don't know the science behind that.
Yeah, that's a little hazy.
Seems a little intense.
Yeah.
But oh well. That's their motives. That's how they want to expand the landmass.
I bet
is to get this volcano to erupt.
I bet you Maxie looked really hard at a model in his office that had some baking soda in it, and then he just labeled some vinegar as rocket fuel. And he was like, "See if we pour it in here."
Yep. That's I imagine like the Mythbusters before they do their experiment, and they of course do their sizing models. Yeah. And I'm with you. That sounds like what Maxie was probably up to.
Yeah, he clearly does not have a science guy on his team that can just be like, "Hey, so if we just do this, that's just gonna burn. It's not gonna cause an eruption or anything. It's just gonna burn up." But
definitely. But of course, Maxie and Magma are not the only ones here. We have Steven, who I just keep forgetting. I know he helped me on Route 20. Where did we first meet this guy?
Steven, we had to bring the letter in Dewford in the cave.
Yes.
What do you like Steven? He's popped up a few times.
He's fine. He always helps me, but he's just so forgettable. He's certainly no Lance.
Sure.
He's filling that role, but I don't remember Steven.
Yeah, do you think there's a reason why Steven and Lance are filling in similar roles? Like, do they just want another guy to be like, "Hey, I'll help you out"? What's up with Steven?
Well, now that you say that, it sounds like Steven is probably the champion.
Perhaps.
The Pokemon champion, Pokemon League champion. Because, of course, yeah.
Can you think of any other reason why he'd be this important, in these deliveries, is investigating this legend?
Well, of course, the Pokemon League champion is, like, essentially head Boy Scout of the land.
Yeah.
Lance was going around as a vampire-looking dude, cracking down on Team Rocket disinformation rings with their satellites and just beating the pulp out of vigilantes. And Steven is, investigating what you said. All these happenings with Magma and Aqua. And of course, when you deliver the letter to him, I'm thinking of when Poe goes to that old man, the Santeca.
Lord Santeca.
Lord Santeca in Force Awakens. I don't know why I thought of that.
Well, Lord Santeca,
there it is.
Kind of inconsequential in the grand scheme, right?
He is. His family, of course, we learn in the High Republic.
Yes.
Hugely important with their hyperspace lanes.
Mm-hmm. But maybe that's all, what's it, Steven's good for. Maybe he's just this guy that's like, hey, you know, my father, very important, you know.
Yeah, maybe. We'll keep an eye out for Steven, but essentially we fight with Steven against Maxie and another one of his goons. And this is, as far as I'm aware, the first time you have a duel fight with another trainer. Mm-hmm. That's like actually in the menu with you. Mm-hmm. And it's fairly cool. And I'm kind of wishing, speaking of Lance, I'm wishing this sort of happened with Lance and Crystal.
Right. Because there is that scene, right, when you're in the base with Lance and then you're back to back. It's like you get this guy, I got this guy, right? Mm-hmm. That would have been perfect. And I believe in the remake, I could be wrong on this because it's been over a decade, but I think in Soul Silver, because at this point, double battling is a thing, I believe they allow you to do that in that game.
Cool. Yeah, it's a cool little thing. It's essentially like a double battle with your own Pokemon, but you just can't control one of them. Mm-hmm. Like, I bring out, I think, a Pelipper, and he has a Metang and an Aggron. Mm-hmm. And that's the Pokemon he uses.
A fan of steel Pokemon, apparently.
Yeah. Metang looks just like a metal turtle in a way. I saw like a shell.
Sure, yeah.
Looked like a blue shell from Mario.
Yeah, I can see that for definitely. What's interesting too is, have you noticed that when you're in a double battle, if you use a move that will like affect the entire, like both players on the other side, it will also affect your other Pokemon. So like, for instance, Earthquake, if your Pokemon that isn't using Earthquake isn't like a bird and like wouldn't be on the ground, it will be impacted.
Yeah. In
moments like this, you are sort of pressured into not using moves like that, because it's like, hey, if you have I don't know, who's a fire type, like a Magmar on the field, I'm about to use Surf to wipe out their team, it's like, okay, you're probably gonna die too, so I can't do that, you know. There's an added layer there.
So I've noticed that with Magnitude, where once I use Magnitude as my Chad Gable, my other Pokemon will be adversely affected. But with Surf, that's never happened to me before. And I'm curious about that. Because I've had other Pokemon out there and I've used Surf and it never affects them.
Interesting. I could be wrong on Surf, but I know there are moves that... Because I know Surf is one that will hit both opponents. Yeah. The way Earthquake does. So I'm wondering then if it's just a rare exception with Surf, or if, you know, it's case to case. Pokemon can be kind of weird with its rules like that at times. It's like, there's a lot of those trends. It's like, okay, well, you know this because it's just experience of knowing if I use an electric move on Onix, it won't be that effective. I don't know the exact reasoning there. I forget if electric is weak against rock or ground, but I know not to use it on Onix, right? Like, there's that level of knowledge you'll retain over time without, like, looking too deep into it. But,
right.
Yeah.
So we get through this fight, and then I love how Pokemon like conveys its story, because all it takes is a trainer battle, and then Maxie and Magma like re-examine their goals as an organization, be like, maybe this wasn't good.
Yeah.
We lost this like 10-year-old kid, and I think we were doing some bad stuff here. Mm-hmm. So they just kind of, you know, get out of here and re-examine their ideals. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's very fun.
Yep. But of course, this is Hoenn, the land of the seas, and we go off exploring the seas. Is this where you go immediately after this? You essentially probably know where to go. So are you heading off in the direction where you need to at this point?
Mostly, I think I went back to the Safari Zone a little bit to try and catch my luck did not happen there. So, you know, I did a couple battles just to get some of my team a little closer to 45-ish. But then, yeah, I pretty much just shipped out. But what about you? Did you run into much issue here? Or?
Not much issue. I'm on the water routes. I went to Evergrande City after surfing around a little bit and encountered a waterfall. So I was like, that will be a later thing.
Yep.
At now, I assume that's where the Elite Four are. I look at the Pokenav and I'm like, all right, the next town would be Pacific Town.
Pacificlodge.
Pacificlodge Town, thank you. That makes much more sense.
Yes.
And that's like to the left of Evergrande City. So I head there, and there's like this very long, skinny column of blue on the map.
Yes.
I gotta be honest, I really like this town.
Really?
There's like almost nothing to do here, but the layout of this town is pretty gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's just a town on water, and I think that's cool.
I really like it. I really like how it looks in the remake as well. But I have to ask, your journey here, what do you think of all this water? Because, like, that is the complaint with Emerald. And we can save it more for, like, once the game's over if you want, but, like, I feel like this stretch is kind of the most you deal with this. You deal with it a little more next week, I think. But, like, here, this is it. This episode is basically where the water stuff comes into play.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily awful for me, but all the time I find myself using max repels. Like, I won't set foot in water without having some repels with me, just because I don't like the constant bombardment of being stopped all the time. It's essentially like being in a grassy area for like the whole time you're there. So I'm always using max repels. It's easy to skip trainers if you want. I don't think I necessarily did, but they're not like forced upon you in a way that is super annoying. You can always just kind of go around them if you need. And if you have the right types of Pokemon, they're usually like one-hit battles. So it's not terrible. I understand why people wouldn't like this. And another complaint sort of mine was getting around this area. Like, you look to the left, you look to the right, there's water, everything sort of looks the same, so it's hard when you're first entering this area to sort of get your bearings. So that was somewhat annoying, but nothing too deal breaking.
Yeah, like, maybe it's because I played this when I was younger and I, you know, didn't look at games as like, oh, this is bad. But hearing like you seem like it's inoffensive is, I guess, nice, because I never looked at the water issue with Gen 3 as a deal breaker the way some people do. You know, like, I still think so far, and again, we can look at this more after the fact, but I still think Emerald, like, makes up for this in comparison to all the other games we played so far, right? Like, having a lot of water routes, it's okay, you know? It's like what you're saying, it's about as bad as grass, and if you have a grass or an electric type at the front of your party, they're eating good right now, right? Like, they're fine.
Yeah. That's essentially what I was doing. I had, I think, probably Manectric, because my Sceptile was already like level 40, level 41 at this point, so leveling Manectric up to level 40, I had an EXP share on, I think, probably Yurtle, and then I kept cycling that out for the next Pokemon to just keep leveling. That's the best way I found, for me personally, to level a lot of times in this game. Because, like, you're in an area, especially, like, when you're facing against Aqua and Magma, they are going to use either fire or water types, so you're using the opposite type, and then effectively one Pokemon in my party was rendered useless, right? Like, I wouldn't be using Pelipper against Aqua, or I wouldn't be using Yurtle against Magma, because, like, they could probably get through it, but it would take a lot longer, so I would essentially give them an EXP share at those points and just keep leveling them up through that way. So
very nice.
That's what I did. Um, and so essentially we're going through Pacific Lodge, and I like the look of it. And then we get to the left, towards Slateport, and there's all these sort of currents, and it's just sort of another gimmick. I think I find it rare candy on one of these islands, scattered about, but it's mostly just sort of a gimmicky way to get to Slateport, and I'm like, I have no clue where to go, so I have to look it up.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I look it up, and then apparently I had to get Dive from Steven in all the way back in Moss Deep, which I've encountered this before. I encountered this last episode. I think Emerald has a problem that it doesn't necessarily signpost where you should go.
Yes.
A lot of times, and I found myself more so with Emerald than Crystal or Blue, mostly lost, being like, okay, where do I go? And I had to turn to guides for that.
Yeah, I do think part of that is also because we're playing on a schedule, you know? And I think Emerald, because of the advancements of the GBA, they really went wild with, like, letting it feel like more of a world you can explore. Obviously, the routes are basically hallways still, but they're much more... They're kind of like, a lot of them are sort of 3-lane highways at times, right? It's like, okay, you can go this way, that way, this way. There's different trainers all over the different routes, but it can be a little overwhelming, I think. And, you know, I think part of that choice was probably because they imagined kids would be just playing this and exploring, going everywhere, you know, and that would be half the game, is like finding where to go. But yes, I do think on a schedule, it can be a bit more like, so where do you want me to go? Like, what's next? And I think, you know, the advantage of Red and Blue is definitely like, it's pretty linear, you know? I know at the time I was like, I view these games like open worlds, because at a point you can really go anywhere. You know, you couldn't because you didn't have Fly, but you can.
Oh, I did go everywhere.
Yeah.
I just took the long way.
Yeah, but this is a bit more open on that front, so I can see where you'd get lost for sure. I've found myself having to do a little Google once in a while and be like, so wait, what's next? But yeah.
I think I also called Blue an open world game, but I think now we're at the point with Emerald where I think this is even more of an open world game. And yeah, like what you're saying, it is probably the devs just taking more of like a hands-off approach and being like, let's just let the player go where they go and just sort of run around a little bit more. It would be cool if like on your like phone that you have, just be like, hey, nudge you in the right direction. You can mess around and explore a little bit, but the next thing is in this direction. Like if, geez, dude, if Birch calls, right? That's the professor in this game. I can't believe I was like struggling to remember that just now, because I haven't seen a lot of Birch in this game. Since running into him around like Mauville.
I think so. Yeah.
So it's been a while actually. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. So actually, I think it was Slateport, but yeah. It's interesting because like I think that there is a linearity to Pokemon still, and even in this game, it's like, well, if you look at the map, there's only like X number of towns you haven't been to yet, right? And it's like, okay, well, if I can't get to that one that looks like it's in the middle of the water right now because I don't have surf, that continues to reduce the ones you can go to, and then it's like trying to do the process of elimination, I guess, which isn't ideal if you're just trying to like be direct with it. But yeah, I do think I can see it be a choice that was made deliberately to encourage, 1, exploration, 2, game time, and I guess 3, selling guides. Maybe I never had a guide for Emerald as a kid, but I can definitely see, you know, that aspect of it. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think Omar Nakvi on the long play podcast that we do for Metal Gear Solid, I think he mentioned that about Metal Gear, specifically Metal Gear Solid 1, where like games were created at that time, oftentimes to drive sales of guides, because there was a lot of points where you'd get to in games and be like, where do I go next? And the internet era was just not upon us at that time. And physical guidebooks were very popular. So yeah, I think this came out around the time of like, what, Metal Gear Solid 2, maybe?
A couple years after, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so I could see that. Yeah. I could see that being not like a design choice necessarily, but maybe something in the back of their minds.
I'll add this too, just because I had a guide for Platinum and Pearl, that was mainly just like a Pokemon guide that was like, hey, if you want to find this Pokemon in the game, these are all the routes you can find it. Here are screenshots of specific patches of grass where you can find it. More so than like a story guide, because I didn't use it for a story guide. But from memory, with at least Fire Red and Pearl and Platinum, or Platinum mainly, they definitely came with like a chunky manual. So I don't know if the manual also served as like a what order to hit the towns in. Recently, just because we're talking old stuff, I've played through Zelda and Zelda 2, the NES games. Those games, you know what to do because of the manual, and I don't have the manual because they're digital on the Switch, so like I just had to look up guides online. So it's definitely strange revisiting titles like that. I think this is a weird one that's like on that in-between, but yeah, I can definitely see why that would be a hurdle here more than it was with Red and Blue, which is just more linear. For sure.
Totally. So after getting Dive, I did like what you said. I looked at the Poké app and I was like, all right, Sotopolis City is the only place I haven't been. I like tried to navigate around there. I'm on like Route 126. I'm like, I don't see an entrance here, so I essentially have to look up a video, and then of course get there by using Dive at a certain area. There's like this underwater cave that you can go into. And then to get there, you like rise up from your dive, and then you're in Sotopolis City, which is, of course, the mystical city where history slumbers. And again, Emerald is just knocking it out of the park with just cool-ass locations. Like, Sotopolis City, I was very impressed by, I must say.
Yeah, Sotopolis, I think I name-dropped a couple episodes ago accidentally, but yeah, Sotopolis I think is a really cool designed town in a Pokemon game. Like, what was your first reaction, I guess, coming out of the water and then just, like, seeing this?
So, the way one of the NPCs described it as, like, you're in the crater of a volcano. So, like, if you look up, and I'm like, I can't. But if you look up, you can see the sky, and there's, like, a hole, of course, like, I think you're, like, in a volcano, maybe not. That's sort of what I pictured. From the water, which is like very still and very reflective, and the buildings. I've never been here, but I've seen lots of pictures, and it reminded me of Greece.
Sure.
In a way. And Sotopolis, I don't know if that's a reference. Give me some.
What was the volcano place? P? Begins with P?
Yep, it sure does. I think that's in Italy. Pompeii. That's in Italy, right?
Yes. So, Jack, think of what we discussed this episode so far. What creates craters?
What creates craters? Volcanoes? No. Excuse me. What we've been talking about. Of course. Meteorites.
Yeah.
Create craters.
Think there's some space business going on in this game, maybe, behind the scenes?
Maybe. Of course, we've seen the Space Center. We're in this crater. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe.
Where's Venom? Where's the symbiote?
Maybe just hold on to that idea and see what becomes of it.
Okay. All right. So we're messing around Sotopolis City here, which I think is really cool. I can't access the gym, and this is another point where I'm like, what do I do? Of course, there's a sub over on the right side of the map near Evergrande City. You have to dive to get to it. This is the sub that Archie stole, and it's just been sitting in the sub for a while, apparently. get all the way through these Aqua members in this underground cavern. There's some annoying puzzles. There's one where you have to move a bunch of rocks, which I had severe difficulty with. Even though it didn't really take that long, but I found difficulty with it.
Yeah, all the strength puzzles I hate. I've always hated them. I don't understand. Like, they're just cumbersome and slow. And you have to, like, reset it every time you enter a room. I don't like, no.
Yeah, I don't like that about Pokemon games. Like, if there's rocks you can smash, in, like, one cave, if you smash the rocks, they're gone forever. But, like, out and about, if you smash rocks and enter a new area and come back, you have to do it again. And just not a fan of that.
Yeah.
So Archie's here with, I'm gonna need your help here, Kyogre. And essentially Archie uses the red orb to unleash Kyogre, and immediately regrets it. He's like, oh, don't think I should have done that. He gets a call from someone. It's like, oh, it's raining outside? Oh, sweet, it must have worked. And then he responds, oh, it's raining harder than expected? Oh, no. And just the confines of the storytelling in this game just makes it so hilarious to see, like, how they tell the story. And I think it's super funny.
Yeah, it's very quaint, I think. Pokemon, for the longest time, I always looked at it as, like, a very quaintly epic series, right? Because, like, there's these titans, essentially, that you're awakening to create a cataclysmic event, and then you just have this buffoon on both sides being like, they did what? Like,
yeah,
it's fun, right? And I think it's funny because, and what makes it such a great adventure story is that it's these two adults that are, you know, trying their best to advance their own ideals and force them upon the world through using these ancient creatures, and then you, as this pure young adventurer, has to be the one that cleans up the mess. And I think that is, like, some of the best, I guess, like, coming of age movies do that kind of thing of, like, you know, the kids are right, the adults are wrong, like E.T. I guess Stranger Things recently as well, Star Wars to an extent. Like, I always think that's fun and charming, and Pokemon, I think, can nail it. So,
yeah. I also just picture, of course, you're the silent protagonist, as many games had. I also just picture, like, this kid stumbling upon all of these situations and, like, not wanting to be there, and all these adults are like, you have to fight my Pokemon now, and he's like, I guess. I guess. Yeah. And then just stumbles into being the Pokemon League champion. I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's very fun.
So, yeah, there is now a showdown happening in Setopolis City between Groudon and Kyogre. Set off by Maxie and Archie, respectively. And Steven's there, and he's like, dude, this is wild. This should not be happening. I'm going to take you to the Cave of Origin. There's a guard there. He lets you in on Steven's recommendation. And then in there is Wallace. Do you want to tell me who Wallace is, Christian?
So, Wallace, I believe, might be a former Pokemon champion. I don't fully remember. Let me double check that.
So, I was reading up a little bit about Wallace, and I think Wallace in Ruby or Sapphire is the gym leader here. Before Juan?
Yes. Okay. I pulled this up on Bulbapedia.
Trusted source.
Wallace is a highly accomplished trainer and coordinator who specializes in water Pokemon in the original Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, as well as their remakes. He is the gym leader of Setopolis City. There you go.
Okay. Very cool. So, Wallace here leaving his gym to Juan in Emerald. Imagining he's meditating about water Pokemon, maybe. He mentions Rayquaza. Maybe he's studying the ancient Jedi texts of Pokemon, and he knows of this legendary Rayquaza who can who has calmed Kyogre and Groudon in the past, and is like, you need to help me free Rayquaza so it could do that again. And asked me like where it is. I'm like, I have no clue. So I chose Sky Pillar because that's the only place I haven't heard of yet.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Yep, let's go." And I was like, "All right, hope I was right." So yeah, we go to Sky Pillar,
mm-hmm.
which was like to the right of Pacific
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Sky Pillar is weird because it's like in the middle of the water. It's very strange. Like, I think there's a like earlier in the game. I'm pretty sure. I don't think you came across this, but I think you can pass it and just be like, "Hey, what's this?" And then you just can't really do anything with it.
Yeah, I think he needed to unlock the door.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was locked. And I also remember like an NPC saying, "Oh, if you look correctly, you can see Sky Pillar from here."
Mm-hmm.
So I remember it was like somewhere around there.
Yeah. Did you
basically go to Sky? Yeah.
I was gonna say, when you heard Sky Pillar, did you think of that one in the desert, or did you think of something like? Did you think that was the one you were gonna go to?
That's a good call. No, I totally forgot about that. But that's a good call.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember that, I probably would have headed there.
Sure. Yeah, because I mean that makes sense that you would have forgotten about it because it disappears. It's not there all the time. Which again, you would think, hey, maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's the one. But no.
No, it's not. Go to Sky Pillar. You basically just climb all the flights of stairs. You get to the top. Rayquaza is there. It's this green dragon looking thing, and then it flies off. So it's released. And then head back to Satopolis, and then you're treated to, I think, one of the coolest, if not the only, cutscenes you get in Pokemon.
Yeah.
And like mid-game cutscene, and it's Rayquaza coming down from the sky, like POV, going back to like behind the shoulders, like Amazing Spider-Man falling in Amazing Spider-Man 2, landing, and then like calming Groudon and Kyogre. It's very, very cool.
I love this. It is so cool. Very representative of you, I think, in a way that I think most other Pokemon stories that we've played so far aren't, of like working the legendaries in. And I think that's why I don't know how it plays out in Sapphire and Ruby because I haven't played them, but in Emerald at least, like, you literally have here a representative of Team Magma with Groudon, Team Aqua with Kyogre, and then Rayquaza rolls up to stop him. That's you. I think that's super cool. So
it's also Emerald versus Ruby and Sapphire.
Yeah, your headband is green. You know, there's a lot of connections here. I really like that. It's very fun. But
yeah, it's I think this looks like it was the culmination of the story. I don't know what they could do after this, like in terms of like Team Magma and Team Aqua.
Yeah,
it seems like most of it is done.
Yeah, I won't lie to you. This is it. This is the culmination. Here it's like, okay, you get through your story. You know how every week it's always like, hey, there's a thing, then we do the gym. Then there's a thing, then we do a gym. This is the thing. Then we have a gym, and then the Elite Four. So it's like, there's not a ton of other stuff. There is some like little nuggets of info and lore you can pick up on, but none of it's really essential after this. So I guess I want to ask you then, with your experience, right? Obviously, week one, you talked about how it was like so drastically like improved from playing Blue and then Crystal and now this. This is, again, another third version. Crystal was a third version, but we get all these differences here that I feel like Crystal never really touches on much of when it comes to the story and the legendaries. So like, seeing all this play out, is this something you expected to see, I guess, since week one of this show, of the season with this game?
No, I was going into this sort of just expecting like how Crystal was not a carbon copy of Red and Blue, but more so in terms of the gameplay. Obviously, it was mostly the same, and there wasn't a through line with the story in a similar way that there wasn't in Blue. Like, in a way, there wasn't Blue. Like, you were going along each gym, and then there was Team Rocket to deal with, and eventually you get to Giovanni and you deal with him. And then in Gen 2, you still have Team Rocket, and there's also your rival, who is more of the villainous role than Ash for me, who was my rival and Blue was. So I was kind of let down by that in Crystal. Not to say that it wasn't a good game, but there just wasn't a lot of meat on the bones comparatively. But with this, yeah, there was just way more story, and I think the culmination of it was very interesting. I didn't expect that cutscene, and I thought it was very cool. And I think Emerald overall is just a more like refined Pokemon experience compared to Blue and Crystal. Because of course the core gameplay elements are almost exactly the same. But that's just how sequels work, and that's just how franchises work. So I was expecting that going into it. But I think with the progression that we've seen in terms of story, I think Emerald knocks Crystal and Blue like out of the park. There's a lot of stuff going on aside from just the gym to gym lead up to the Elite Four. So I do like how they incorporated story into this, and I think it was interesting despite the limitations.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm glad you've enjoyed it, because that's, again, why I think this game's special, because it was the first one to do that type of thing, right? So far, like, obviously there's Mewtwo. Mewtwo is a big deal. You get the story hints about Mewtwo being this important legendary. Crystal, I put this more on the game than on us. We barely had any legendary stuff in that game. Like, we had Suicune, and Suicune, like, seemed missable, right? It was like, oh, I guess you could get Suicune. But, like, the legendaries of Johto, Ho-Oh, and Lugia, we didn't see. You know, like, there's all those other islands in the corner that are completely optional, clearly, but I like how this introduces the Pokemon into the story. Obviously, people have their feelings about how this template is used in the future, but I do think here it is unique to the series, and everything else being refined so far, seeing this and the culmination here is still working in 2021, I think is cool and fun.
Totally. And yeah, you're mentioning legendaries. So after this cutscene is done, of course, you talk to Archie and Maxie, who don't face any repercussions for their actions.
Yeah.
Presumably. They're just like watching in awe, and they're like, well, I guess we're not bad guys anymore. It's like, all right, okay. Where's, what is it, Officer Jenny? What's she up to?
Yeah. Who knows?
Oh, well. I go back to Sky Pillar, and I catch Rayquaza.
Nice. How did you catch Rayquaza?
So, it's funny. After using the Mach Bike to, like, run through all the cracks, which was difficult in and of itself.
Yes, very, very challenging.
Not challenging in the fact that it's a hard task to do. It's mostly hard because you have to use... You're going at, like, super high speeds, and you have to, like, turn on a dime to make sure you... Yeah, it's difficult.
It's cumbersome.
But, yeah, we get there, and it's funny. I think this happened with me in Suicune in Gen 2. I get Suicune down... I got Suicune, like, in a sleep state, and I was using Ultra Ball after Ultra Ball, and then Great Ball after Great Ball. And then I used my first Pokeball, just regular old Pokeball, and I catch it. Same thing happens here. I get Rayquaza down using... I think I was using Sceptile, because of the grass advantage over water. And then...
Well, Rayquaza, I think, is Flying Dragon.
Okay, so it wasn't Sceptile then. It must have been...
Manectric would have had an advantage over Flying.
It must have been Manectric. And then another Pokemon. I forget who. But we get it down to a low state. And I was using Ultra Balls. Wasn't working. Great Balls wasn't working. I used one Pokeball, Christian, and I catch this thing.
That's excellent. You always love to see that happen.
Level 70 Pokemon, Rayquaza.
So, I remember Rayquaza. I say Rayquaza. I don't know what the difference is. I don't know if there is a difference. But
That's probably correct.
But I hear people say Rayquaza all the time. But Rayquaza, I remember when I was younger, was a task to capture. I think Rayquaza was the first legendary, like god tier one that I ever caught. Because Mewtwo, obviously you had to get through the Elite Four. I didn't get through the Elite Four in Red until I played like 2 other Pokemon games, I think. And even then it was in Fire Red that I actually got there. But yeah, difficult fight. I think back in the day, I might have saved the Master Ball for Rayquaza. But yeah, that was my experience back in the day. I did catch it now. Again, similar to you, I used a Pokeball just because I felt like I could. But
yep.
Yeah, what drove you, I guess, to go back to Sky Pillar and go get it?
I like trying to catch legendaries if I can. I think I tried to catch a Lugia in Crystal, and then I don't think I met the parameters of like you needed to do it at this certain time in the story. Something like I got there, but I just couldn't. It wasn't even there. It didn't even spawn in. So I think I was there too early or something. So never actually did it. But
did you just go out of instinct, or like did somebody direct you? Like why?
I just like having having a legendary as a backup, like just in case, because this is like level 70. So
yeah,
this is Elite Four status. I don't know if I want to bring Rayquaza in with me because like I like the idea of building up my team. So maybe he'll be sidelined, but also maybe if I'm having difficulty, maybe I'll bring Rayquaza in. So who knows?
So I'm wondering then if you just got like a gut feeling of like I want this as a backup, so let me go here and check. Were you expecting it to be spawned there again still?
So I did look this up because I was like I want to catch Rayquaza, and they did say, of course, that it was there.
Yes.
And I wasn't sure about it because that happened with Lugia, like I said, with Crystal, and it wasn't there. But now that I saw like all the traps essentially that were here, and like it was a puzzle in and of itself to actually get to Rayquaza, I was like, this Pokemon's probably at the top again. So
yes. So because of that, what would you think if I told you that you can go capture Kyogre and Groudon as well?
Interesting. Are they in the same places they once were?
Yes.
Okay. Do I go legendary hunting?
This is one of my favorite things about Pokemon, Jack, is legendary hunting. Obviously, you have your way that you want to approach the Elite Four, and I would personally never have the team half full of legendaries to fight the Elite Four. I don't have that much insecurity about my team, but I think there's something to say about going through this adventure and being like, yeah, I'll take this Pokemon that's this legendary beast out of its natural environment, throw it in a computer, and just keep it there. There's something to that, you know? There's something there.
Yeah. So. Maybe I will go and catch him. If I do, I think I would maybe only use... I would have to see the typing, right? Rayquaza I know is dragon and flying. And...
I think...
What's Groudon and Kyogre?
Kyogre, I think, is just water. Maybe. And then I think Groudon might just be ground.
Really?
Yeah. But they can learn, like... I think Groudon can learn fire moves. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just a ground type.
Interesting.
It is,
yeah, I mean, I already got my...
It is just ground.
Now, Chad Gable, I will say I've run into some issues. He's a little weak because he can't get to his final evolution because I can't trade. Which is a little unfortunate.
Yeah,
but that's okay.
I'm sorry that's the reality. I don't know if there's a way to fudge that through emulation. There probably is. So we could look into that before the Elite Four if you really want Chad Gable in there.
Maybe.
But
I might just go with Chad Gable in there. Super underleveled Grappler.
Yeah, why not? Get him in the Hall of Fame. All he has to do is be there. You know, he doesn't have to. True. He doesn't have to kill anybody. He can just be there.
You don't need all your Pokemon to win those battles.
So, but yeah, glad to hear that the legendary hunt has you intrigued, because that I do think is sort of really pushed more here so far than it is in the past 2 games.
Yeah, but like what you said, I don't think I would just have most of my party as as legendaries. I think that's just it's not in the spirit of what I want from my Pokemon game.
Yeah, I'm glad you feel that way. And no disrespect to the people that do, because let me tell you, when I was younger, I would like probably have a legendary on the team. Like Rayquaza, I definitely can tell you was in my Emerald squad by the end for just the initial time I ran through it, right? Like, because of course it's a level 70, right? Like, of course you want to use that.
Yeah, I mean, I had my Moltres in Gen 1. I had my Suicune in Gen 2. I have my Rayquaza. I'm just so attached to most of my Pokemon in this party.
You said most, though. That's an interesting term. Who's slacking?
Like, and I mean, I like them all. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
This will be a game day decision of who comes out.
Sure.
We'll see. I think Pelipper, lock. Sceptile, lock. Chad Gable's a little weak. We'll see. I love Chad Gable, but he just can't get to the third evolution, unfortunately. We'll see. We shall see. Also, my Hariyama, fighting types are always just like, take them or leave them. Panicking is a tank, but fighting, I feel like, is just so few and far between where, like, that's the most useful Pokemon you need. So, maybe we bring in level 70.
If you can, I think this might be very beneficial for you. Maybe see if you have a TM for, like, Thunder Punch or Ice Punch. Give that to Hariyama. That will be helpful.
I have Dynamic Punch.
Okay. Maybe an Elemental one, though. Maybe an Elemental one could help a lot.
Okay, will do. So. I'll look into that. But, of course, we get to Wand, the gym leader with the beauty of pure water, and of course a little trivia for my own name. My real name is John, so when I took Spanish classes from preschool till junior year of high school, and then had to take them in college, of course, because I don't know why.
I know that feeling.
Yep. When you find out on orientation day, you have to take 2 semesters of a language. Great, thanks. Didn't do that for 12 years of my life already.
Yeah.
But when I was in those Spanish classes, I was referred to as Juan, because that was my Spanish name, as John. Yeah. We get to Juan, gym leader, with the beauty of pure water. And I wrote down here, Christian, you must have loved the ice in this gym.
Yeah, huge fan. Love it.
I will say not as bad as slipping around, slatting in, I forget whose gym.
Yeah, it was like the 7th gym in Crystal, I think. Yeah. If you're gonna do it this way, not the other BS way, where it's like, oh, you step on it, you can't change your direction.
Yep.
Sucks.
Yeah. So yeah, like what you mentioned, this is a little different. It is more of a puzzle of figuring out the correct path, and then once you reach the ice staircase, which this took me a few times to realize, you have to go in the correct path, and once you reach like the final step in front of the staircase, the ice will break and you can just walk up the staircase like it's a normal staircase. Reminds me of the game Don't Break the Ice. You remember this thing?
I do.
You have like this little like set of little ice cubes that you knock with a little hammer. I forget the point of this game. Of course, don't break the entire ice.
There's a little penguin standing in the middle, and if the penguin falls and dies, then you lose.
Yes. Don't kill the penguin.
Yeah.
I assume they renamed that.
Yeah, the name didn't test very well with children.
No, it didn't test well with kids or penguins.
Yeah.
So we get to the end of this. I also just go underneath because there's a bunch of there's like a bunch of sporadically placed trainers in the second area, or second or third area, that are like facing in like multiple different directions. They're all like right next to each other. I thought that was funny. I fight through all of them just cause. And Juan and his gym trainers use water type and I think ice type Pokemon. So Manectric and Sceptile are my go-tos in this one.
Nice.
So we get to Juan, and I will say I lose my first fight to him because of the dreaded Kingdra. Is this the thing with Juan? Is his Kingdra the thing?
Kingdra definitely can throw some difficulty your way, especially if your party's ill-equipped. I kind of was at a double disadvantage with my Camerupt because Ares is out here having all my fire moves, but it's fire ground. Fire weak to water, ground weak to ice, so I was a little screwed.
Yeah. Was your Sceptile coming in?
Yeah, but it was a lot of potions, really, to try and get me through this. It was a tedious fight more than anything else. Died a couple times. Just kept stocking up on potions, but I managed eventually, but...
Yeah. So, I'm gonna leave my second playthrough, or second attempt against Juan just running in the background here. I'm not gonna just go through every move I make, because for the first two Pokemon, it's Love Disc who comes out, who just looks like a potato.
It's a heart.
Looks like a potato.
Well, the view they give you in the game doesn't look... I'm looking up the Love Disc sprite, because
I will say that.
Okay, I can see where you would get a potato from that, but it's clearly a heart. Its name is Love.
Yeah, I know, but the way the first image I see looks like a potato. This thing looks like a spud.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I'm just saying. It is.
It should have been called Love Spud.
Love Spud would be a good name. Love Spud might be a better name.
Yeah. So yeah, Love Disc is a one-hit Leaf Blade attack from Sceptile, right? No issue. CeeLo comes out, I think, is just the next evolution of... Is it the next evolution of Seal?
Sealeo, you said?
Sealeo, yeah.
Sealeo, yes. Sealeo is a evolution of Spheal.
Spheal, you're right, yeah. So that's another one-hit Leaf Blade attack from Sceptile.
Nice.
And then this is interesting because Kingdra is like sandwiched between all of these weaker Pokemon. And Kingdra's thing for me was using... This was one of the most annoying fights I've ever had. Was using Double Team to up its evasiveness and make it like impossible to hit, like next to impossible. So after going through Juan the first time, my idea here was to bring out Panda King, and at first use Knockoff, which is the Dark type move, which gets rid of anything that the Pokemon is holding. So essentially use that to get the berry out. That makes it... After it uses Rest, it uses that berry to make it like wake up right away. So I'm like, let's knock that out of the situation. And then I wanted to land a successful Dynamic Punch to make it confused. So that hopefully, if it's confused, it just starts hurting itself in the process. And that is like mostly successful. I do get those in.
Nice.
And the berry's out, and it's confused, and it starts hurting itself most of the time.
Jack, that is incredibly impressive. Like, just hearing that story and thinking about how we started with Pokemon Red and Blue, like, hearing that I'm very proud. That is true strategist thinking right there. Excellent.
Thank you. There are times where I'm like, I have to look things up, and this wasn't one of those situations where I was like, how do I even beat Kingdra? In those, like, it's always on GameFAQs. Those, like... pieces of advice are almost never helpful to me, because it's like, oh, you need this Pokemon, you need it to level 70, you need these moves. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. It's very like, specific on what types of Pokemon. So I'm like, no, this is my party. This is what I'm going to use. So it's funny because I think we were talking about knockoff being a not so helpful move, but it just so happened to be very useful in this situation. So that was nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Essentially, like I've used Dynamic Punch to get the confusion in. This reminds me of Thanos being like put under the spell from Gamora, and then Juan brings out a Hyper Potion and like heals Kingdra, and then it snaps out of its confusion, and then Thanos just comes out. That's just what I picture.
Sure.
Now that I'm thinking about this.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then after that, I'm using Manectric with Spark and a few Thunders. Thunder is like already isn't a 100% chance of hitting. It's like I think it's around the 75. So that's like a few times where that'll come out and it'll just miss, but sometimes it'll come and do some serious damage. Paralyzes Kingdra at some point. Panicking comes out again. I think double or Dynamic Punch misses, and I just run out of PP because it's only 5. It only has like 5 attempts.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially just using some Vital Throws, and then eventually I take out Sceptile, and I get it down with Leaf Blade. Luckily, it didn't use Rest, because that was the situation where it was either Ice Beam, which did some damage, a decent amount of damage, I should say. It used Rest to heal up, but it would put it into sleep, and then it would use Double Team to make its evasiveness a lot higher. So it was like this situation where I kept getting in the loop of it would be asleep so I could attack it. It would wake up. It would use, it would up its evasion, and then it would just sleep again. And it would be that vicious cycle of I can't really hit this thing, and even when I can, it wakes up again. So I managed to get it.
Very nice. Yeah, it can be tricky. Like we've talked about it this season a lot, but like when any person you're fighting pulls out a healing maneuver, the rage inside you, like,
yeah,
you're basically a red Gyarados at that point. You're like, just, you know, it's like, I almost had, just take it, you know, it's like, I'm there. You're just prolonging this. You know you have to lose, but yeah.
Yeah, that was hard. And then after that, it was Whiscash,
yes,
and Crawdaunt, who were both one-hit Giga Drain hits. So it's funny because this gym was super easy, except for Kingdra. Kingdra was like the only issue I had with this.
Yeah, so as somebody who has a Whiscash on my team, I guess clearly you had no issue with it, so your opinion of it must not be high, but Whiscash is water ground, similar to Quagsire. So you got that double effectiveness and Giga Drain on that. But
so I'm looking up Whiscash right now. The third image of it like standing upwards looks exactly like, in my mind, the Long John Silver logo.
I can see that.
You have to look this up. It's so ridiculous.
I'm looking at the Whiscash right now because the thing is, Whiscash never stands, but I do see that. I see that image. That looks like it's some fan art. I can see that for sure. The Long John Silver look.
Wait, now I'm looking at Long John Silvers. What am I thinking of?
You're thinking
That's
of
the
tuna fish.
Yeah, what's that tuna fish
Is
called?
it Stark tuna?
Tony Stark tuna?
Maybe.
Yeah, now that you say that, it is some sort of a Starkist.
Starkist. There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
you know what? I'm combining Starkist with the yellowness of the Long John Silver.
Some Old Bay.
What is that?
Old Bay, the seasoning. My mom used to put that on fish all the time whenever she made fish.
Now we're talking about Old Bay seasoning. Oh yeah, dude. Oh man, this is like the Mandela effect. Like I'm thinking of Starkist, but with a yellow patch.
Yeah.
Man. Yes, of course. This is our tuna podcast.
But yeah, I like Whiscash. Whiscash, I like the same reasons I think you like Quagsire. Of it's water ground. It's a really cool typing combination. So like it can
funny looking too.
Yeah, and it can, it basically negates electricity for being effective, right? It's cool.
Yeah, definitely
Cool typing.
Yeah, so that's one. I like the challenge of this. Definitely was annoyed, I will say, by Kingdra, and it was a longer fight than I'm used to, but I appreciate the challenge put up by Juan.
Nice. Yeah, so I guess with this episode, the gym has been completed. The Pokemon League essentially is almost done because we still have the Elite Four to finish off. But with the difficulties you've experienced in this game, do you think it's hitting you the way that you've always talked about with the past few episodes of like you want to hit, or sorry, past few seasons of like, I'd like to hit a difficulty that's not just like the level differential is what kills it, like an actual thing where you have to look at what's happening, evaluate, plan a strategy. Is this giving you that you maybe hadn't had in previous seasons, or is it just difficulty for difficulty's sake? What do you think?
A little bit. I like the way you put that. It seems like more strategy based. Like that battle with Kingdra was more like looking at it holistically and thinking of not just like the typing advantage, but what specific moves could I use to mess this thing up. So I did like that. I'm wondering where I should be going into the Elite Four, because like what you said, that's pretty much the big thing that's left in this game. And a lot of it does come down to power, I think. So like a lot of my Pokemon are around level 40. What is like a benchmark? I think you said like 50. Should I get them up to 50 before going in? Should I get them up even higher, like around 60?
So
going into the Elite Four?
It's tricky. I feel like it depends on how you approach it, right? Because if you want to go in brute force, then I would say 50 to 60, preferably higher end. You'd be good if you just want to use that strength, the raw power of your team. If you want to play strategically, you could probably get by with like low 50s.
Okay.
And like have a lot of potions on deck. But yeah, I don't think anybody in the Elite Four goes higher than 60 in this game. So do with that info what you will.
I was looking through my notes and I saw that I was only like 40s and 30s with my Pokemon in Crystal.
Yeah.
And even lower in for Blue.
Yeah.
So I think I might try to get to 50-ish, maybe. That would be a lot of grinding.
Yeah.
But I think it might be worth it.
So if you do that and maybe have Rayquaza on deck for like your Chad Gable to swap out, respect to Chad, but like if you need that, I think that might be an okay decision.
Okay.
But
I also like the idea of just going through with even Chad Gable, who has like 100 HP right now, compared to like the 120 plus of my other Pokemon.
Right. Yeah. It's a tricky call. It's a tough decision. Thankfully, I know I see in the doc you have questions about if there's any other story stuff. Most of next week is just like getting to the Elite Four and then the Elite Four. That's really it. Unless you wanted to go stop by Kyogre and Groudon before credits. You could do it post-game if we want to do a bonus episode talking about the legendaries and potentially figuring out Deoxys. But yeah, I think in terms of Elite Four, your journey next week is pretty straightforward. Like, obviously, it's a dungeon, right? Victory Road in Gen 1 was a dungeon. You still have that ahead of you before the Elite Four. But I think you might be able to get at least a couple of your team close to 50s naturally. So grinding might only have to not be too long. It'll definitely happen, but I don't think it'll be too long.
Okay. Yeah, so I think I'll definitely go up Victory Road with the Pokemon I have in my party. Level them up, and then maybe I go back to a wild area. Maybe I go back to some trainers. I'll definitely try out the revisiting trainers for XP, because I've never done that, and I'm thinking I'll get more XP by doing that than battling some wild Pokemon, just because that's normally how that works. Maybe even some going back fighting some gym leaders, perhaps.
Maybe.
So we shall see. But yeah, like what you said, I think to look forward to for the listeners of the show, I think the next episode may be the penultimate episode of Emerald, right? And then we have a follow-up episode as a catch-up, or do you think a couple more episodes after next week's?
So, as long as within the next week you're able to get through the Elite Four and we don't have this like issue where it's impossible, next week should be credits. And I think at the minimum, I wanted to give us some wiggle room in case of any other issues happening. I think we can do like a debriefed episode, maybe talk about the journey, talk about like how you view this, in regards to Crystal, which we played very recently, Red and Blue, which we played over a year ago at this point, almost 2 years from now. Wow. But yeah, just like see where we're at, final words, as well as if Deoxys is achievable to experience some legendary hunting. There's a couple other Pokemon that show up post-game that are legendaries that we might be able to have some fun with. So I think there's enough there that we at least have one more episode after next week. And depending on how grabbed you are by this legendary hunt, maybe another one that would probably just be shorter, doing cleanup on the rest. But at minimum, probably 2 more episodes.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well.
Yeah.
Elite Four, of course, and then sort of a post-mortem about Emerald and comparisons to Blue and Crystal. So yeah, that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, and we can rank them now too. We've played more than 2, so you can fairly rank. You can get a ranking going.
I will stew on that. I have a placement on where this would be, comparatively, but we shall see.
Nice.
Until then, Christian, where can people keep up with you?
You can follow me on Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at Shun2D2. Also here on youtube.com/joyclicks with Jack on multiple shows. We got the Long Play Club, similar format to this sort of discussion going through Metal Gear Solid, the series. Next episode that comes out after this episode posts will be the end of Metal Gear Solid 2. And after that, we're doing Snake Eater. So if you're a fan of Metal Gear, check that out. As well as Excelsior, again with Jack, every Saturday, going over stuff with Marvel's Avengers, a potentially dying video game, and every MCU piece of content that's upcoming, covering that, reviewing it as they come out week to week. But Jack, where can everybody find you?
Sure, you can follow me on social media at FascinatedJack. I'll echo what Christian was saying with the Long Play Club. Metal Gear Solid 2, one of my favorite in the series. We're wrapping that up very soon. In fact, after this recording, probably going to go finish that game. We left off at Vamp in our previous episode. That's coming out, or should already be out by the time
premiering as we speak. Yeah,
definitely. So picking up from there, going to the end of the game. If you know what's going to happen, should be interesting. Leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for next week, we have the Elite Four to look forward to. Am I going to just use all of my Pokemon in my party? Will Christian? We will have to find out. So until then, we'll catch you later.